Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Added Time, answering your questions that you kindly submitted for today's video. Before we get into any of those questions, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content because it helps out the channel as well. I want to say a massive thank you because the channel passed 15k subs last night. It means the world to me whenever we hit a new landmark, and thank you so much for your continued support, your engagement, your likes, your shares, all of that good stuff on the channel. It's been so humbling over this year, to be honest, so thank you for that. But let's get into your questions. Firstly here from TY7, who asks, should Edouard Mendy start against Tottenham? We'll find out. I'm pretty sure today, when I do my team selector later today, reacting to Frank Lampard's press conference, I'm sure he'll confirm if Mendy is in the squad or not. I'd like to see him start. I think it's a good opportunity to get him into the first team. Of course, barely had any training with the first team last week when arriving from Rennes, of course. So hopefully he'll be available. If he does not feature tomorrow night against Tottenham, I wouldn't be stunned if he's definitely featuring against Palace at the weekend. Green311 asks, what formation do you think we will see more of this season, 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1? If the latter, could we see Mount being deployed next to someone in a double pivot, the two? I can't see Mount being deployed that deep, to be honest, because I don't think it's good for his game. I think that's the issue for Chelsea at the moment, that balance between attack and defence, and Frank Lampard committing so many men forward. As we saw on Saturday, that's going to be a real problem for Chelsea, and it has been a problem for Lampard to Chelsea. I can't see that, to be honest. I think Mount, his versatility to play in attacking areas, I think will mean he plays higher up the pitch, and I think that's where Chelsea benefit from having Mason Mount. If it is a midfield three, say in a 4-3-3 formation like we saw on Saturday, sort of on the left of a 4-3-3 where he got that goal, or say an inverted winger in a 3-4-3 that you didn't mention, I think Frank wants to play a fullback system, but I think as we're seeing already, if Frank can't manage, or if a four-back system can't manage and sort of stop the transitions we've seen and us getting done on transition over and over again, I think he may revert once again to a 3-4-3. And what does that mean for all the attacking players? Because players will have to be left out. I'm not entirely sure, but based on your question, I think a 4-2-3-1, because I still believe, say if we were to sign a Declan Rice and Frank can balance his sort of attacking intent with defensive solidity and balance, especially with the fullbacks, I think that will be the formation, because I think other than Mount, I think Kai Havertz as a number 10 can be really dangerous for Chelsea this season. Vadeep asks, since we need to fix on a formation, do you think Chelsea should go for a 4-1-2-3 formation with Kante, Kovacic as the sole holding player and a solid four in defence? A bit like the last question, I'm not entirely sure, because what we're hearing at the moment is, because of the interest in Declan Rice, Frank Lampard does not see N'Golo Kante as that sole holding midfielder. And it's once again a case of, you can have Kante there, but if there are so many men forward, Kante can't do it on his own. You know, he can't be like two players on a football pitch. I think that's the issue for me. It's that balance. And looking at that formation, I think you have to have Kova a little bit deeper in truth, because I think he's that connector player. He's sort of the balance between sort of a DM, a deep line playmaker, and sort of a creative midfielder, sort of your number 8. He can sort of do a bit of both, to be honest. And I think you need him in the team to connect play, to be honest. But just on the sense of, say, going for that formation will only work if there is balance within there. So a 4-1-2-3 formation could work, say, if Declan Rice is that player and potentially you play N'Golo Kante a little bit further forward or just in front of that. I'm not entirely sure, but those are my opinions. I think that a solid four in defence, yes, but it's about being solid, which Chelsea just haven't been so far this season. Manesh asks, as you said in your latest video that Lamp should stick to a defence, what is your ideal defence? That is a tough question at the moment, because so many players in and out of form, with Frank chopping and changing the back line. I think right back, I still think Reece James should be right back. I think he's got such huge potential. I would like to see Reece James, to counteract him being done and being out of position, is maybe drifting a little bit inwards at times, like we see Pep Guardiola do with his fullbacks. I saw this at times last season where he does drift centrally, and Frank Lampard, I think, has talked about this because he has that natural instinct and has played in central midfield before for Wigan. I'd like to see that a bit more, because I think that would help his game. Also creatively, because it seemed, especially on Saturday, a big line of our attack and creativity was coming down that right and getting the ball out to Reece James. I think that's brilliant. I think the issue is now of sort of getting people to anticipate the balls Reece James puts into the box. But in terms of an ideal defence, yeah, Reece James at right back, because I think we need that going forward, and I think he can improve defensively. Centre back, oh, that's so difficult. Christensen had a decent game, and I think Silva, other than mistake, when you actually analyse the game, didn't have an awful day, to be honest. It was just that horrible mistake. I'd still say taking out just Saturday because it's easy to look short term. I think that Kurt Zouma has to be one of those for me because I do think in terms of good Premier League defenders, I think he's probably our best. And maybe Thiago Silva alongside him. I mean, that's saying something. And of course, Ben Chilwell will be the left back. Absolutely. I wouldn't be stunned if very soon Frank goes to a back three again, because I've seen him do it before when we have really bad defensive displays. He likes to naturally revert to a back three. And of course, that changes what the selection is based, because then you see Dave come into that back three too. But that's the back four. But it's so hard to give you an answer because there's trouble in changing. There's players coming in and out of form. There's players being dropped in the squad. Some defenders may stay. Some defenders may leave yet. So it's hard to know. But that's the best sort of pack four I could give you at the moment, just based on my personal opinion. Tom asks, if we do sign Declan Rice, what will the future of Billy Gilmour hold? Because Gilmour would sit in front of the defence, letting Kante cover, move about. I wouldn't be too downhearted about sort of Rice coming into the team and that meaning the end for Billy Gilmour, because Gilmour got a lot of time last season, and I think Frank will want to give Gilmour more time when he returns from injury. I think there are going to be opportunities for Gilmour. I think he could be the answer, to be honest. You know, if he plays anything like he did against Liverpool and Everton, he could be the perfect answer to add that balance in midfield. Of course, after Project Restart, there were sort of flaws in his game, and he very much looked more like his age, to be honest. But there is a maturity there that could be the perfect answer for Chelsea. And then you could sort of ask the question, do we need Declan Rice? You know, could we wait for Billy Gilmour to come back and then fill that role? But no, I wouldn't worry. He's still such a young player, and there's still so long to go for his career that I'm sure even if he isn't a regular first team player this season, he will get those minutes in, say, the cup competitions when Frank needs to rotate potentially. And then we'll see next summer. I don't think you should get too sort of concerned about that, to be honest, because he is injured and that's going to take away from his season this year. Still a young player, got huge potential in the future, so I don't think it's too bad, to be honest. Jerry asks, are our medical staff up to snuff? Too many muscle injuries and most of all the setbacks after they have been released to train. I actually think the approach Chelsea are taking this season, at the start of this season, with certain players returning from injury is actually better than it was last season. I think it's quite clear that last season we rushed players back several times too early and they got re-injured. That's going to be a big issue for every team this season, the intensity of games, the rapid rate of games in a short amount of time. And you have to manage that. And I think Christian Pulisic and Hakim Ziyech not being rushed in the team, even Ben Chilwell, who's pretty much fit, not starting against West Brom, not featuring. I think it's Frank and maybe the medical staff sort of thinking about how can we stop the amount of injuries we got last season. So I wouldn't be too concerned this season, to be honest, because it's just about waiting for those players to return. And if we do take a more cautious approach to a Christian Pulisic, who is vital to this team on its best day, and that means that he has a longer spell fit this season, that's brilliant. So I actually think you're going to have to wait and give it time. You know, if we still continue to have these muscle injuries over and over, it was a concern last season, but I think being a little bit more cautious this year may actually help Chelsea in the long run. Roy asks, at the moment, both Ben and Aspi are ahead of Emerson and Alonso for left-back spots, so would you sell Alonso instead of Emerson as we could get more money from him? To be honest, Emerson deserves another chance. Emerson did impress in the Barnsley game. I was a little bit stunned because we didn't have a left-back on the bench, and that was obviously going to be Ben Chilwell. Why Emerson wasn't there? I mean, Emerson, it feels like a point of no return, to be honest. It feels for months now that he's not going to have a Chelsea future. That's why I was a bit stunned he did play in midweek against Barnsley. That was obviously to give Ben Chilwell that time later on in the game and, you know, not having to play a full 90 minutes. I could understand that in a sense, but Emerson did impress. I think if you're looking at, say, Marcos Alonso, I think is a very good player to have in the squad. Because if Frank at times wants to revert to a 3-4-3, you've probably got one of the best players in that position right in your squad to fill in there. If he's going to continue to play a fullback system, I'd say Emerson is better in that. In terms of Alonso, you know, who would I want in a fullback system, Alonso or Emerson? And I'd say Emerson is better, but that I don't think there's a massive gap there, to be honest. I mean, Emerson still does have massive flaws in his game, and there's a lot of people who do think Emerson as well is a left wing back rather than a natural positional left back, to be honest. So there is that issue. I think Emerson will likely get his move away, and I think Alonso, I'd still veer in the direction. I think Alonso is better to keep because of his experience. I know he had a really poor game on Saturday, and I don't expect him to be in the team a lot this season if that form continues, but I just think because Frank loves flexibility, all the rumours linking Emerson away, not being in the squad for Premier League games anymore, I just can't see him staying, even if he did have a decent game against Barnsley, in my opinion. And finally, Fleo White asks, do you see Jorginho really going out? If yes, loan or do we sell him, considering we will need money for Rice? Also, how logical is it to sell him to Arsenal, a direct competitor? I don't think it will be Arsenal now. I mean, Sky Sports were really the only ones running that story last week, and now it pretty pretty much seems like PSG may be the front runners as well. Antonio Rudiger being linked to PSG as well, so PSG could be getting 2 Chelsea players. I do think it will likely be a loan to buy, because I think the amount of money Chelsea want for Jorginho will be a little bit too much in the current market, because I don't think Chelsea, considering he is such a specialist player, and I could see him going to a PSG and doing wonders there, to be honest, based on the rhythm and sort of the speed of the league, because of how good he can be on his day if he's put in the right system. I think Chelsea will want a good fee for him. They're not going to go for cheap. You know, Jorginho's not going for cheap this summer. Selling him to Arsenal would be a massive mistake, but you know, you look at Arsenal, they want a CDM, which is not Jorginho, to be honest. They don't want a register. I've heard Thomas Partey being linked to Arsenal, and Edouard from, I think it's Lyon, isn't it, who they're linked with. So I can't see that happening, to be honest. There wasn't much traction on that. I do think Jorginho will be making way out. I do. I think that Chelsea will want to get him out, especially if Declan Rice is the big target. One of those midfielders will have to leave. We've heard rumours that, say, a Barkley or a Loftus-Cheek could leave as well. I don't know if it's one or the other. Say Jorginho gets sold and then we bring in Declan Rice, and then, you know, Barkley and Ruben stay, or still one of them could go out on loan. I'm not entirely sure based on numbers in the squad. But yeah, I think Jorginho, this is the end, to be honest. I think just when everyone's fit, I can't see Jorginho fitting into that system, what Lampard wants to do in terms of style of play. He'll get exposed regularly, and I think he probably is best to go somewhere where he'll fit in better and a system will be more suited to his style of play. But that is it for this edition of Added Time. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.